Why, hello there. It's me, Jeremy, your favorite bald dude telling you about Standard and Strange, a store and a brand with simple rules. Sell clothes they themselves would wear, manufacture it ethically, and build it to last. From boots made in Oregon to loop wheel garments made in Japan, find all the best clothes for your wardrobe at Standard and Strange. StandardandStrange.com. Hey folks, it's Blammo. I'm Jeremy Kirkland. How you doing? Look, if you're new here, welcome. This is a show about people wearing clothes, and I get it. It's a fun pod. I get the pleasure to talk to folks about this all the time. So, welcome. How are we all doing? Bit of an interesting week. If you're a listener, I'm sure you're all aware I've been on this big Beatles kick lately. I'm just blasting the Fab Four nonstop, and I'm in the car with my 5-year-old. And, I mean, it's like kids are wild, man. But she was like, Dad, why are there no girls in the Beatles? And I was like, oh, snap. I'm like, well, Yoko and John did a band later. And then, Linda and Paul were in a band. And I'm trying to tell her about Wings and stuff. But I just paused for a moment and realized that my daughter loved the Beatles too. But she wanted this deeper connection, right? It really hit me. And I was like, God, representation really matters. She was like, well, are there other like girl rock bands? And I'm like, oh, dude, homie, have you ever heard of Heart? So I played Heart, blew her mind, crazy on you, you know it. But look, I digress. Kids, man, wild. Enough about that stuff. So this week, I had the absolute joy and pleasure of talking with Liz Giardina, the creative director of Another Tomorrow. First off, and you'll hear me say this at the beginning on the pod, Liz was actually one of my earliest friends I made in New York. And yes, took me to my first fashion show way back in the day. I told her it was 2007, but I looked at my emails and whoa, I was wrong. It was 2006. Not like a year matters, but 17 years, fam. That's a long time. She's an incredible designer, and I'm so glad to have her on this week. Liz and I discussed her philosophy on clothing design, the appeal of the uniform, her early career at Halston and Derek Lam, why she doesn't feel the desire to compete with European fashion houses, her love of sneakers, and how she's evolving the brand Another Tomorrow. All right, let's go. You're probably the person I've had on that I've known the longest, I think, because I met you in 2007.
Wow. I can't believe you remember the year. But yeah, we have known each other for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you were always in the industry. Other people I've met and I've known them for a long time, but they've had various careers. But I don't know if you know this. You took me to my very first fashion show. It was Chato Ralph Rucci, and you took me there, and I was your guest. I was at the very first. This was when it was, I think it was like Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, but it was New York Fashion Week at Bryant Park. And I went to the show and I was like your guest, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different time, right? That was in the tents.
Yeah.
Ralph Rucci was at that time had a large business, and he had a beautiful, elaborate show. I remember that very, very clearly. Oh my God, thank you. Wow. I
don't know if that's yeah.
No, I just forgot about even going to the show. I remember going to the show. I remember going to the show with you and how beautiful the show was.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool, but I don't think I was always into clothes and I was into fashion and stuff. But, in terms of, you were the only person that I'd known that basically had it as their career since I've known you. I mean, because were you at Halston then?
Yeah. So I was designing for Halston when, oh my God, there was so much happening when we were trying to bring that brand back. So it went through several different ownerships. And I think at that time it was owned by a private equity group. Harvey Weinstein was an owner. Tamara Mellon was an owner. Sarah Jessica Parker got involved. So shortly around there, I think that was 2008, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, I was working on reviving that brand.
Yeah. Was it fun?
So I actually did not go to school for fashion. I went to school for sculpture.
That's right. At WashU.
At WashU, yeah. So Washington University in St. Louis. So I see the first 10 years of my career as like graduate school. And I think that experience was really helpful for me. I started working for the brand out in LA. right after I graduated from school. I was the only assistant there. I was overseeing an atelier and coming back and forth between LA and New York. And then when we parted ways with that designer, I moved to New York, and then I was traveling between New York and Florence, and then also going to Hong Kong because we were doing a collection, like a ready to wear designer collection. And then after a while, we started doing this lower price line. So it was just like a huge education from like made to measure at Bergdorf Goodman, which is how we started, to doing a designer collection, having runway shows, and then doing like a secondary contemporary collection out of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So all three of those things I learned on that job. And so I learned a tremendous amount. It was also, there was a lot of different ownerships as I was there. It was very difficult. It was very up and down. And I think more than anything, it kind of taught me to trust my instincts and like dig in and deal.
Yeah, well, I was
You
going to say,
know?
yeah, I mean, how do you find your way in fashion if you go to school for sculpture?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I was very lucky to go to WashU, and I went to WashU on a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was tremendously lucky. But then I also felt like this itch to get out of St. Louis,
Oh,
and
yeah, I know how that is.
and I mean, the itch is really great when you're 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to come to New York. I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to go to Asia. And I thought the art program at WashU was really strong. And there was a faculty member named Ron Lex who had the sculpture department. And I just like got along with him really well. And he became a mentor to me and allowed me to sort of craft whatever program I wanted in terms of what materials I was working with, who I was collaborating with. So I decided to do kind of apparel focused sculpture. So I knew in undergraduate school that I was going to go into design. And then I feel like having that foundation of three-dimensional art is just tremendously helpful when you're creating anything three-dimensionally. So it was a pretty natural transition into fashion because I had the vocabulary to talk about three-dimensional design. I had to stand up in critiques for 2 years and defend my work and speak about my work. So it was really helpful to have that fine art background. So I didn't really feel like it was that much of a transition, to be honest.
But were you always into fashion like before going to school for art? Like,
Yeah. I did a lot of dancing growing up, and something happened when I was in this dance company in St. Louis when I was in from the time I was 8 through 16. And something happened where all of a sudden my interest kind of flipped from movement to garments.
whoa.
And it became like a real fascination with how garments looked on the body when the body was moving, and certain choreographers that I felt like you use costume really well, like a Martha Graham or an Isadora Duncan or Catherine Dunham, who is from St. Louis. So like particularly women. And then I just became really interested in dress and more like personal style than quote unquote fashion and how people present themselves. And that became really interesting to me. And that continues to be really interesting to me. I'm much more interested in how people put themselves together, what you feel really good in, building a wardrobe, making your life less complicated than I am, I would say, in fashion for digital or like design for digital or like the way a lot of people consume fashion now or disposable fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, because from when I met you to where you are now, I mean, you've always, for at least for me, have had more or less like a uniform. Like you have a look, and you've worked at, very different houses over the course of your career, but you still look like you.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that? Because I don't know, I mean, how much you dig into the pod with this stuff, but so many people are always trying to figure out, like, it sounds tacky, but like what their personal style is. And I think, at least for me, most of my journey with that was just going headfirst into every designer. And I still don't even know where I'm kind of ending up. I mean, I'm talking to you in a bizarro block printed linen shirt. I mean, I look like I live in Del Boca Vista, and I'm fine with that, I guess. But like you're very honed in.
Yeah. So I would like to, at the end of my life, design my way out. So I want to end up, this is a deep desire, with an extremely edited closet. And I actually am really envious of menswear and a lot of men that I know because they're way further along on that journey than I am, maybe because they don't care, or because, men's fashion is so different than women's in so many ways, and there's somewhat less options. So I mean, I don't know if you went to the George O'Keeffe show at the Brooklyn Museum.
I did not, but I heard quite a bit about it.
It was amazing. There was like a rack of clothes, and it was like the same garment in multiple colors, and then white shirts with different mother of pearl buttons on them, with collars, without collars, etc. And I was like, that's what I want my closet to be at the end of my life. So I feel like I'm constantly like trying to find it. And the kind of design that's interesting to me, or is the most interesting to me, is the kind of design where you see somebody, you're like, oh my God, the way that she's wearing that white shirt and that pair of pants is just so effortless and perfect. Not, oh, I love, this new sparkly thing on that dress. So it's about trying to find the perfect thing. And sort of like a less is more mentality. But I do think that there are moments where finding something perfect for a wedding or for an event, like that emotional garment, is really important as well. I just don't think you need a lot of those in your wardrobe. I think there's so much that you can do with really simple pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I admire anyone who has a uniform, but I feel like I got more into fashion because I didn't ever want to wear a uniform. So I'm like kind of in this weird catch-22.
I wish I had a uniform. I think that I'm getting there, but I am also always trying things. And I also think that throughout the day, I'm forever restyling. I'm untucking, I'm unbuttoning the shirt, I'm flipping the collar. Like it's an evolving process throughout the day. And I'm never quite happy. It's always like, oh, but what if I tweak that one thing?
Yeah, I mean, so how do you agree what's good enough to be designed, right? Because you're at Halston for a long time, then you jump over to Derek Lam, and which is also similar, but very. I mean, obviously Derek Lam and the Halston stuff is there's. I feel like Derek Lam, at least for me, and the stuff that you had done, it's much more wearable than like event large thing. This is like everyday life.
Yeah, for a certain woman, yeah.
Define the certain woman.
Well, I mean, for the woman that has the ability to afford those clothes. Yeah. I went to Derek, I helped Derek expand the business and launch a collection called 10 Crosby, which was commercially quite successful. And it introduced a lower price point into his brand, which really helped the reach of his brand. But he's such a good designer and such a disciplined person. It was great to work with him because it was really about the practice of design from somebody who is interested in every part of the process, from concept to sketching to draping to fitting to executing the final garment. So it was tremendous. I mean, it just to be with somebody who really loves all parts of it and doesn't deem any part of the design process as something that he's sort of grown out of or isn't interested in anymore. That was really cool to see, and really made me truly fall in love with making clothes in a way that I don't think I had before. Just like an example is that Derek would make his own specs, so he would draw the garment, and then he would, not always, I mean, there was designers that were, working with him on his runway collection, but he would draw the garment, then he would draw the flat, the technical drawing, and then he would actually put in the measurements. Because he was so specific. And I was like, that's fantastic. Just that ownership of the garment. Because a lot of people, a lot of designers or creative directors will say, this is my vision, please execute, and then there are creative directors that are forever designers. And he is a forever designer, creative director, which I loved working with him for that reason. And I feel like I'm very much the same way.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head, because a lot of people, the word like fashion designer, for some people can be pejorative. For some, it's like you really don't understand exactly what that entails anymore. I think a lot of menswear designers are really just editors or they're stylists. And I don't say that to belittle them. I say that in that when it comes to actually manufacturing clothes, this is entirely separate from just the business of running a business. But like, some people are like, oh, I can do tech packs. I worked at Ralph Lauren and I learned how to do tech packs, and I'm very good at that, which is basically like getting something set for a factory to mass produce. But like having the ability to sketch and then to figure out what fabrics work with that, and to then be a part of every aspect of that production, into knowing exactly how it needs to fit and the constant refinement of it, I think is something that I don't know if it exists with many menswear designers. Someone might clap back at me, but like, I don't know. I mean, there is a level of involvement that you are in that I don't think is as common for most men's designers.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if that's the case. I'm sure there are plenty of menswear designers that are drawing and draping. Well, maybe not draping, but drawing.
Maybe
And
Rick Owens. I'm trying to think.
but Rick Owens is like the best
He's
example of a
yeah,
designer who really owns the whole creative process, right?
yeah,
But that's not traditional menswear. It's a little bit different. If you're taking a shirt and you're constantly iterating on a shirt, you might not need to draw. You may say, like, take the collar off, make it a band collar, change this cuff to a French cuff, and then it becomes something completely different. And you can do
right.
that on a flat, right? But for me, and I think for a lot of women's wear designers, people that love to design product, it's meatier than that. It's, who is she? Where is she going? How is she living her life? It's these questions that you're asking yourself. And in order to fulfill those questions, to answer those questions, you have to draw. I have to draw, or you have to drape, or you have to collage. It's like, I always feel like you have to kind of like scratch to find her a little bit. Like, you might know her, but like it takes like a minute to be like, oh no, that's who she is, and she's
Mm,
wearing that. And I think that I feel like I've constantly gotten better and better at design because I'm really focused on, is the customer really wearing this? And do we have the right balance of the clothes that she's going to wear all the time, every single day, and also the emotional product that she's going to wear, like, here and there for something very special. And I've, like, the older I get, the more life experience I have, the more sort of complex the world gets and my life gets, the more I'm really laser focused on designing for the woman that I'm designing for.
how often is the woman you're designing for yourself?
A lot. I mean,
Yeah,
now a lot. I mean, this is the first job I've had where I feel really connected to the customer,
at another
um,
tomorrow.
at Another Tomorrow. And it's an interesting brand for so many reasons. But one of the things that drew me to the brand is the creator, the founder, Vanessa Barboni Halleck. When I met her and I saw how she presented, which is really impeccable and beautiful and very focused, I thought to myself, oh, if she's wearing the product, she wants to continue to wear this product. I really, really like how she's put together. I want to design for that person. And I feel like I'm not her, but I can dip into the same wardrobe and make it something different for myself.
Yeah, because I think for some people they'll think about fashion as, I'm gonna purposely be stereotypical in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that, like, oh, I'm just meeting a need that someone needs, so this is more function. And others are like, no, 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 I'm gonna approach fashion as a way to inspire and to make someone see this where they want to improve themselves versus, oh, you made a pant that fits my phone. You know what I mean? There's different camps, and I'm curious how often you walk those two paths, or if you at all.
I mean, I think what is the focus for me is feeling like you look the best that you can look, loving your clothes, and making your life easier. Being able to open your closet or open your luggage, and there's just so many options there for you, and everything
Yeah.
is not complicated. I mean, I always say that my focus on Another Tomorrow is sort of calm in the chaos,
Yeah.
and there's just so much information that's being thrown at us all the time. And I don't think, as this emerging brand, we can compete with big European brands, nor do I think we should try to. And I think we have to be really focused, really clear, and really calm, and show women, this is four options for beautiful shirts. And this is the only shirt that you really need, or one of these four is the only shirt that you really need. Like, making things like just simpler and easier. So, and I think it's because that's like a desire that I deeply have. I feel overwhelmed with information, and I want to get dressed quickly in the morning, feel great about what I'm wearing, and have an easier life.
Yeah. You mentioned not competing with the European brands. What can you elaborate on that?
I think that in the US, with a few exceptions, maybe Marc Jacobs, Michael Kors,
Hmm.
it's really hard to compete with European luxury groups because they have fragrance and accessories, and they do that really well. And I think in the US we have struggled to do that well. And there's
Agreed.
just bigger, yeah, there's just bigger budgets to have big shows, big events, bring in all kinds of people for those events, just huge marketing budgets. And, right now I'm at a very new brand. And I think we're trying to do things very differently in a lot of ways. And we have to be really focused and clear about every decision that we make, and not just sort of do more, right? In fashion, there's a lot of like, do more, just compete with this house because this is what they do. But sometimes that doesn't make the most sense. So we're being very careful and thoughtful about how we spend money, how we show up for the fashion community, or when we do show up for the fashion community, how important that is to us, et cetera.
No, I mean, I think that's definitely speaks to at least a larger demographic of women in the US that I think there's a few different women I know who I consider very, very, very stylish, like people that are locked in. And they have the money to get the Chanel and whatever. And the only thing they want is the bag, and that's it. But in terms of clothes, in a weird way, the European brands for them, and there's a person who's listening to this who will message me afterwards, but like the European brands for them, they're like, no, that's too accessible. Like in a weird way, they want their clothing brands to be a brand that is kind of a little bit under the radar and is a little bit, if you know, you know, because for some people wearing their clothes, they want to also, it used to just be, oh, I'm going to communicate my wealth. And now it's like, well, but I'm going to communicate my own sense of style and my own, and the fact that like you can connect all these other things versus like you're wearing new Louis Vuitton and you're just covered in LV, right? And I feel like a lot of the European brands over the past few years, especially from people like Demna and Vetements and all the stuff that had come from that, like this taking all these inspirations from streetwear, so all over logos, very, very loud fashion. And for most of the stylish women I know, they're like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Like they're going to splurge on a bag, but that's it. And so in a weird way, I feel like you're in a better position than some of these companies because they want to look smaller. They want to look, they're making sub collections to diffuse from the larger ones. And you guys have your own collection. You check every box in terms of, the B Corp, the climate neutral, the 1% for the planet, which obviously, I mean, I don't think you're going to see that. You think LV is going to be a B Corp or something? I mean, let's just be honest, right? And it's very strange because there's like this whiplash effect from like loud, ostentatious, expensive for being expensive women's wear. I don't know, but I feel like Another Tomorrow, and there's a few other brands I can think of that are in this really good position because also a lot of your clothes feel very timeless. Like I'm not looking like, yeah, that's spring summer 24. Oh yeah, that's it. If someone wears it in 27, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a closet. I mean, I'm exaggerating here, but let's just say I have a lot of button-down shirts that I have designed for other people that never sold because I would design, a button-down shirt in whatever fabric, and buyers would come in and say, we don't come to X brand because you make shirting.
Oh. So are those buyers still buying for the same company?
Yeah, because you
come to
your brand because you make emotional product, right?
Oh.
And I was always like, I just want the shirt. I don't want the dress with the gathering and the, whatever cutout or whatever it is in the same fabric. Other people want that, and I think that that's great. I just want the shirt. So it's such a pleasure to work for a company where we make crew neck t-shirts, button-down shirts, men's pants. I'm expanding on all of this and trying to add a little bit more emotion, trying to expand her wardrobe, which we're, in the next year going to be unrolling all this new product, which is great. But it's such a pleasure to make product that I want to wear every day and not have to get that from someplace else.
Yeah.
Well, I just had lunch last week with Derek Lamb, and he was saying to me, remember when we would like design a sweater and then we would have conversations, and then it was like, well, they're not going to buy that sweater from us, so we have to add something to it. There was a great article in the Times about this years ago. I think it was in the Times about this period like 10 years ago where everything had to be like quote unquote emotional, which I use that word in a different way. It was like suddenly there's like huge zippers on sweaters, and I'm like, I don't want to wear a sweater with a zipper. I don't recall that happening so much in menswear, but in women's wear, everything got really tricky. It was like there's like cutouts everywhere and like asymmetry and zippers and different color top stitch. And I felt, often very like lost in that. So, I'm so just happy to design a shirt and to talk about the collar on a shirt. Like, like that's what men's designers get to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. It's just in terms of with the landscape of women's wear, there's just been this, I mean, I don't know, maybe the emotional thing, maybe that was what I was trying to get at, but like it's just too noisy and it's too loud. And I feel like the larger houses are struggling to compete with that stuff because they're also too big. And I think that's a weird thing. Like do you think that there's like a sweet spot that a brand wants to strive towards until they get so big that they're just dependent on, fragrances and resort collections and, weird VIPs and then like, backdooring stylists 50 grand a month so they can put it on, whomever. And it just becomes this kind of like a messiness that like I feel struggles to maintain the original point of the brand. Like you lose your soul when you're so focused on 1,000 different aspects just to make the revenue to spin the plate that you're known for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a business person. I have never worked at a European luxury fashion house. I do think that there's something that's really important to me about designing clothes, which is connecting with the customer. And I strive to design clothes for women right now, hopefully men in the future, that I want to have a drink with, Like that's my whole thing. Is like I strive to make clothes for people that I would be thrilled to sit next to at a dinner party, that I find really interesting and intriguing. And to make clothing that they like to wear. And sometimes, that might be the fashion customer, but sometimes it may be somebody who is not interested in fashion. They just want great quality product. And that is what moves me and what gets me excited to go to work every day. What wakes me up in the middle of the night, wondering if it's the right shade of cream, but the like growing just to grow, just to be bigger. I mean, I feel like that's just like capitalism. Like these companies they're never going to be satisfied. Every year needs to be bigger. I mean, look at what happened with Gucci, right?
Yep.
They had like a little soft period and then everything changed after so much growth.
Attention! Do you even loop wheel, bro? Do you know what loop wheel garments are? Look, I actually didn't, honestly. I was just like, oh, it's a flex, or it's this special kind of cotton. But no. The folks at Standard & Strange dropped a ton of incredible knowledge bombs and their incredible loop wheel tee, made in Japan, of course. Back to loop wheel. It's an antique circular knitting machine that relies on gravity and uses spring-bearded needles. What the heck? Do you even get it? Look, all you need to know is it's dope. It's better if you want to learn more. Visit standardandstrange.com/loop wheel and check out their new loop wheel tees. Your boy is partial to yellow because, duh. But the tees are fire no matter what color. The fit is spot on, and it's a classic tee that looks like it's from every era, to be honest with you, and fits like a dream. And it's from the folks at Standard & Strange, the shop that helps you own fewer, better things, run by industry vets who are focused on incredible product from incredible vendors. And look, if that's not your vibe, check out some of their huge offerings of Japanese denim or boots. But listen, the shirts, fam, the shirts. So, if you want to know more, visit standardandstrange.com. Loop wheel, baby. That's standardandstrange.com. Yeah, I mean, and I think the bullshit tolerance for your standard consumer is really evolving to where people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to patronize a brand that isn't going to have these core values or is going to evolve so much that it's that like basically what I'm investing in isn't really going to, and I don't want to use the word appreciate, but just like it's not going to stay as current. Because I feel like at least, actually, shit, almost every brand you've worked at, or all of them, it's very timeless stuff. It's not like, yeah, I did the Marc Jacobs rat and I put it on a bunch of t-shirts where like people aren't really chasing those down right now. Maybe ironically, who knows? But there's a timelessness of these things. And I think if you're a customer, like I don't really want to buy stuff that in a couple years isn't going to fit in with even the house that I bought it from.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's all kinds of customers, right? And it's about finding the customers, finding your sort of tribe when you're creating a brand or growing a brand. I think that there are people that just have an insatiable appetite for fashion and they just want more. And, for me, like a clearer example is people that are into sneakers, right? Like I see people all the time walking around in sneakers and I'm like, oh my God, that sneaker is so cool. It's like a piece of candy, like I'm just so interested in everything about the sneaker. And then I'll, whoever makes the sneaker, like I'll go and like look at their e-commerce and I just like never buy it. Cause I'm like, I don't want any more candy in my life, Yeah. And it feels really like of a moment. And obviously in apparel, there's the same thing. I think that the great thing about sneakers and about accessories, specifically handbags, is they seem to really hold their value in ways that apparel doesn't, because you wear apparel, it falls apart. It gets holes. Nobody wants to buy repaired clothes. It's just the way,
Yeah.
We're rougher on our clothes than we are on our handbags. And, I'm rough on sneakers, but not everybody is. So I feel like there's a customer for so many different kinds of brands. I think you have to decide who your customer is and constantly make that group of people, bring them so much joy with your product that they keep coming back for more. And I think for this particular brand, for Another Tomorrow, it's really important that we give them incredibly high quality product that will last a really long time, because that's just part of the way the brand was built.
Right.
And we have to stay true to that. Like, I can't start chasing other trends or the way other brands operate. I have to, stick to our guns, because I think the way that this brand was launched is really great. And we already have such a good core group of customers. So yeah, I mean, I struggle a lot with people that buy things just for like a photo or for a moment, or, like the brightly colored Birkin bag, and then owning 20 of those. Like that's hard for me, because it seems really wasteful and it doesn't seem like product that you're really using. I like product that you live in, that you depend on, that really becomes something that's valuable to you. It's like, your favorite mug, your favorite shirt.
What is your favorite mug, your favorite shirt?
Well, my favorite mug, there's this artist who used to be in Brooklyn and then moved to LA, named Akil, Akil, and he makes the best mugs ever. And they just sort of work perfectly. And I mean, they're all made, individually, and no one is alike. And my favorite shirt, I mean, I love our shirting. I love our shirting because we use organic cotton from the US. The cotton's made in Italy. The shirts are made in Italy. Our linen is actually grown. I'm wearing our linen shirt right now, is grown right where we make the fabric and make the clothes. And everything just feels really good on.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned sneakers earlier, and I mean, what are the sneakers that you guys don't sell sneakers, but what are the sneakers that you're referring to that you tend to wear often?
I mean, I wear the same Hoka sneaker to run. I've been wearing that same sneaker for a long time. I don't wear a ton of sneakers on the weekend. I wear a black slip-on Van a lot. And I have an all white shell toe that I've been wearing, but I like crave sneakers. Like, I love to just buy sneakers, but I just can't let myself do it because it just feels like something that I would wear for a second or love for a month, and then I wouldn't like it anymore.
Yeah.
And that I used to date somebody who has 500 pairs of sneakers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't even put that together until you just mentioned that.
A front row seat to like sneaker mania. And yeah. But I see shoes all the time, and I'm like, oh, I want that shoe so bad. I mean, it happens to me like 3 times a day. I want that shoe so bad. And then I'll even like put things in a shopping cart and I'll never buy it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are your steps to purchasing? When you're shopping for yourself, what are the needs that you try to meet? Because it sounds like you're pretty good with the willpower. I mean, a lot of times people just click add to cart and check out, but like, what are yours?
Well, I mean, I've worked for great brands, so I've had wonderful clothing allowances that have allowed me to have a wardrobe that's part of my compensation. So that is a huge part of my wardrobe. I buy a lot of vintage clothes. So every season I do a huge period of research before I start designing. That includes vintage shopping, renting vintage clothes, going to everyone I know's closet, looking at their clothes. And I actually tend to shop the most then for myself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Often I buy things for work, and then I just, I buy them myself and then just like loan them to work. So I buy a lot of vintage clothes. I was wearing, a couple of years ago, I was wearing quite a bit of Jill Sander. So I would spend money on that.
Which, Jill Sander, or?
Yeah, the collection.
Yeah, I didn't know if you meant Jill Sander designed Jill Sander, or...
Oh, no. I mean, I do have a lot of vintage Jill Sander, but new Jill Sander. Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Yeah, new Jill Sander. Yeah. I used to wear old Celine, and I'm excited to see what Phoebe's going to be doing now. But, I'm pretty consistent in terms of what I like.
Yeah. I mean, kind of keeping up with the uniform. It sounds like you're so strict on the uniform that the only thing you let yourself get nuts on is sneakers, which you don't even let yourself buy.
I don't even buy. No, so what I do love, first of all, I don't feel, I mean, I wish I had a uniform. I don't feel like I have a uniform yet.
You definitely have the uniform.
I don't
You
feel like I have a
definitely,
uniform.
come on. I've known you for a long time. Your style, it's good. Okay. This is not a critique, but it's like, yep, that's what she wears. There's, you
Yeah.
know, you're always playing with the geometry. So you have like, maybe a boxy thing here or a slimmer thing here, lots of layers.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's not there yet. So I'll tell you what, the one thing that I allow myself, and that I love is jewelry. And like that's the candy that I'll buy.
Go on.
I love jewelry. I mean, I have a ton of jewelry. I love William Spratling silver from the 20s. I love Bakelite, which I buy and never wear. I love antique jewelry, family jewelry, Victorian jewelry. I love everything. I mean, there's not anything I don't like when it comes to jewelry. I will buy things and I will buy them even though I'm not going to wear them, knowing that someday when I'm concepting a collection or doing a photo shoot, that weird earring will be perfect. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I got through the pandemic buying earrings on Etsy and eBay.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, jewelry, I love, and I would actually probably wear more jewelry if I felt like there was more stuff for men. And I know jewelry is basically unisex anyway, but it's like some of the things, I don't know. I would look like fucking, what's his face? Johnny Depp, I mean, if I
Yeah,
could,
no,
I would just be
that's a
covered in
whole other
jewelry.
level.
Well, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
See
I
me
mean,
walk around.
yeah. No, I mean, I think a ring on a man is really beautiful. I mean, you're wearing a wedding band, but like a
Yeah.
signet ring, like a pinky ring is gorgeous.
So I used to do
Oh, you have a bracelet on, don't you?
yeah, I have a bracelet on, I have a watch on.
Yeah, that's
Um,
enough.
I wanted to do the pinky ring on top of the wedding band because, like, that's
Yes,
like the
next to it.
old,
Yeah.
no, like literally on top.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That's so
Because
chic.
that was like what the old boys would do is you'd wear your signet ring and it would be on top. Like FDR did that, but it's not like I want to be like FDR. I mean, geez Louise, but there was some cool stuff. I mean, or King Charles, I guess now I would say he has the same thing, but it's kind of like an old boy thing that
Oh,
you
that's
basically
so
only have
chic.
one finger for your ring and that's your pinky.
That's so chic. It means
Um,
like the Agnelli watch over shirt.
yeah, exactly. Johnny
So
Agnelli. I
good.
mean, I mean, that was, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm constantly looking for more ways to express myself because I get tired by whatever current thing I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, jewelry for me it's such joy. I mean, my mother loves jewelry, my grandmother loved jewelry. When I met my husband and he wouldn't move in with me for like months and months and months, I think like past a year, maybe into 2 years. At one point I was like, I'm just gonna take all of your grandfather's jewelry.
Quite
But
the
his grandmother
threat.
had epic jewelry. And he's like, yeah, totally take it. And it was, because he was like, it was actually great. We had our own apartments. It was fantastic. Like, the pedal did not need to be on the gas. But
Hmm.
his grandfather had this great, I still have it, onyx signet pinky ring, which I wear, a
Ooh.
beautiful link bracelet with a gigantic buckle on it. I mean, he was Persian, so he had really good jewelry.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Do you wear a watch?
no,
No.
no, that's such a commitment. I know you're a watch person, but that's such a commitment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know a few people who will wear watches and they just won't ever bother with, setting it, which I'm like, you can skip the date or the day, but I'm like, it is kind of nice to look down and know what time it is.
So I was at a vintage show like 6 years ago, and there was this gold Rolex with the tiger's eye face.
Yeah.
And I was like, that watch is perfect. I want that watch. And it was so expensive. I was like, I cannot buy that watch. It's just not going to happen for me. But that is the only watch I've ever seen that I would wear.
I mean, you have good taste. I mean, that's extremely, extremely rare that they did those.
Yeah,
But
it was
yeah, I mean,
perfect.
those are.
Yeah.
Those they're hard to find, but I don't know. There's definitely this resurgence too of tiny, tiny watches. People finding like vintage Cartier from like the 20s and 30s and these little, and also watches that more like bracelets that have a watch on them versus a watch. I'm ear
Okay, I got
quoting
that.
there.
I have two tiny watches that are stunning. Both of them have diamonds on them, so they're not like I'm not gonna wear it every day. And then I
Yeah.
have a beautiful enamel and gold. It's almost like it almost looks like a Christmas ornament, but it's actually fantastic. Necklace watch.
Oh.
And all of those were my grandmother's. But I
Oh,
don't wear them. I think I would maybe wear the tiny watch if I was like going to an event, but it feels a little like much for the day.
yeah, yeah. So you have a couple kids,
Hmm.
and we don't have to chat about them, but being a designer, how much did you having kids affect the way that you design clothes?
Immensely. I just had my second child in September. I have two boys. My body has been in like what I call transition for the last
Okay.
five 5 years. From getting pregnant, having a child. After I had my first kid, I got extra into endurance sports, specifically marathon running. Lost so much weight, got in the best shape of my life. Pandemic happened. You know,
Sure.
body changed. Got pandemic ended. Got pregnant. Just had another baby. So the evolving body has been really, really interesting in terms of how it's changed my design practice. It's made me more receptive, more open, more thoughtful. My normal body, and I say that because I'm still breastfeeding, so my body is still not normal.
Mm-hmm.
My normal body is I'm very small on top. I have a really small chest. I never wear bras. And then I'm a little bit bigger on the bottom, and I'm pretty tall. I'm 5'9". So just from going to not wearing bras to wearing bras all the time dramatically changed the way I thought about clothes. Like I used to get really irritated, and anyone who's worked with me, like merchandise or salespeople, can can totally remember this. And I'm sure they've been in moments where I've been extremely annoyed and been in the room, and I'm just like, I don't want to make stuff bra friendly. I hated making things bra friendly. I was just not interested in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then suddenly, like, you body changes and you have boobs and you have to deal with them. And it just really changed the way I thought about how to design for the body, and changed the way that I dress. Like I generally like to have things really open.
Mm-hmm.
I like to show like the top part of like my neck and like the top part of my chest, but then, you're wearing like a nursing bra and you can't do that. So I've had to really rethink a lot. And also my body has changed sizes. I've been anything from like a 4 to like a 12 in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So you
How
just
is
think
that?
you think about things differently. Proportions that work for you when you're a 4 are really different than when you're a 12.
Yeah. Did it make you want to start making specific clothes for yourself for those? Because I feel like, because what we call it like maternity, basically, like
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth, there's a few like maternity things, I'm air quoting, that she just kept. And she was like, no, this is just good. It's just this really cool oversized boxy shirt. And in a weird way, her body change made her feel a little bit more comfortable, even though she was incredibly uncomfortable during the entire pregnancy period. But she's like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'm just going to wear this big boxy shirt, or I'm going to wear this, or I'm going to wear this. But she still is like, there's no good clothes for pregnant women.
No, there's no good clothes for pregnant women, and everyone's pregnant differently, right? I mean, some people are just
Yeah,
have like a little
exactly.
belly, and it's like easy for them. But I sort of was pregnant in both directions. So like my hips were bigger, and then of course I have this huge stomach. So it was really challenging. I mean, listen, being a mother is really challenging for so many reasons. Being a
Hmm.
working mother is really challenging for so many reasons, and I love women so much more after having my children. I'm like, you're all incredible. Whether you have children or you don't have children, like I am forever like worshiping the goddess of like just female, like what it means to be female. Like it's really hard. Our bodies are I think, a little bit more complex. We have to deal with like
You can say
different.
that. Yeah, they are. They are
Yeah.
more
I
complex.
mean,
Yeah,
making clothes for women is much more difficult than I think than making clothes for men, just because of like boobs and butts and hormones and like all these things. Everything is sort of always in flux. Having a kid, it's like extreme flux, and it just makes you think about everything differently. Think about proportion differently. I think about like ease, like how much time I have in the morning is very different than what it was before. Like
yeah, especially if you're pumping and things like that too. I mean, I know Elizabeth, like, she basically would only wear like these other two or three different shirts because and she was working at home, and I'm not like violating her privacy by this, but like she would have to, she's like, oh, I'm just going to wear these because they're easier to deal with when I have to pump or when I have to, how quick and easy it is for things to get on versus some of the stuff that she'd worn in the past that was maybe not as forgiving per se.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working at Proenza Schouler, there was a dress that we did that had a little zipper down the front. And I wore that dress for a really long time. I just actually sold it, but it was the nicest thing that I had to wear if I had to go to an evening event and I was nursing.
Yeah.
So that I could unzip and nurse, like right before I would run out, or, if it was like a dinner party at my house, like, while the dinner party was happening. But yeah, it's a struggle finding clothes that work in that period, like when everything is sort of like in flux and transition. But yeah, it's been like extremely profound becoming a mother for me in terms of my design practice.
Yeah. What about the activewear stuff? Because you all of a sudden went from being like a casual runner, because we were living pretty close to each other at one point, and next thing you know, yeah, you're running like marathons and stuff, and like you and Caroline or whomever else were in your running crew. I mean, like, did you start to be like, okay, like I think I need to start making activewear? Or
well, I've done 2 activewear projects. When I was at Derek Lam, I did a 2-year collaboration with Athleta, and when I was at Proenza, we did an activewear collaboration with Goop. So I've designed activewear, and it's really fun. Yeah, it's super fun. I don't live my life in activewear. I mean, sometimes on the weekend I'll put it on to make sure I exercise, but I don't like to live in spandex. So I don't totally understand people's like level of commitment to spandex sometimes.
yeah.
So no, I mean, yes, I would love to design more of it. It's not what I wear day in and day out. So I guess the desire isn't as strong as designing, sportswear.
But you've never done like the full Tom Brown thing in which you just wear your regular clothes and run in them, right?
I don't know about that. What's that?
Oh, so there was like Tom Brown used to basically run in his cashmere cardigans.
I love that.
Homie the Clown would he'd wear his shorts, and I will say he wasn't wearing his suiting shorts to be clear. He would wear whatever running shorts and obviously running shoes. He wasn't wearing his trickers or whatever. But then he would have a freaking cashmere cardigan that he would run in. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Come on. But like, have you ever done that?
That's not bullshit. That's fantastic. No, I've not.
Really?
I like to work out in workout clothes. Like I have workout clothes that I love that I like to work out in. I don't work out in the clothes that I design to wear during the day now.
The funny thing is Tom Brown makes activewear stuff now. I mean, they have, their own sort of, I don't know, athleisure clothes. But Homie the Clown is still running around in his cashmere.
That's so cool. I love that. That's just like such commitment. I'm here for it.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I guess he's cool, but he's at that level that he can just wear whatever he wants, and people are like, yeah, it's Tom Brown. You're good.
I love on the New York City subway when you see people that work for him and like you can like spot them a mile away.
Why? Because they appear disconnected from reality with briefcases and metal stomping shoes?
Because they have to wear a uniform to work, whether they work in the design office or they work in the store.
Yeah.
So you can tell like the women all have these pencil skirts on and Oxford shirts and the men have the short pants on. And I was in Tokyo once on a business trip and he was staying at the same hotel I was staying at. And he walked by and there was just like a sea of people behind him. And everybody had the short pants on. I guess it was people that worked in the office there. And I was like, that's just fantastic. It was just such a cool moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that like Tom Brown stuff still, I applaud the fact that he's basically been making the same thing and it's still incredible and beautiful. And I do love the brand, but I do think it's funny because sometimes you're like, I mean, I used to wear those like metal toe and metal heel trickers. I think they're made by, I don't know, makes them now. And you'd nearly die on them. I fell down a flight of subway stairs multiple occasions and I was totally, sober. This was just regular Jeremy just slipping and sliding away. I'm like Paul Simon just down the stairs. It's nuts. So I don't know how all those folks can lock in. Shout out to all the TV heads, but yeah.
I was at a factory that we're working with in Italy a month ago, and they do sweaters for Tom Brown, and it was pretty fantastic to see how he has used that red, white, blue trim in just clever ways on different sweaters. I was like, oh, so good. He just like found this signature and like continued to reapply it in different ways that are just, it's really clever.
The grosgrain thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very impressive. And I think it's fascinating that he's built a career from what appears to me just like sort of twists on the Catholic schoolboy uniform.
Yeah.
It's just sort of it's Catholicism. It's fascinating.
I'm waiting for his acting resurgence or his filmmaking experience.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Team Tom. I'm down to clown. I get it. But
I've
yeah,
never owned any of his clothes, but I always really appreciate them. And I
I have
have
a bunch.
so many friends that have worked there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a bunch of the like we should try this, maybe not, where it's like I had like the Tom Brown union suit and the underwear thing, is then the weird multi-layered tank tops, like all these like just samples that they made from friends of mine that work there.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of it, I was like, this makes sense. Like this, like they would do all these bizarro socks and I don't know. I mean, it's a great brand, but it's I don't know. That being said, are there other designers that you admire, you think of when you're making stuff?
I think that there are so many designers that I am constantly, mostly like deceased designers that I'm constantly like looking for inspiration from. There's a lot of American examples: Claire McCardle, Jeffrey Bean, Norman Norell, Bonnie Cashin, where like I just feel that those designers got the woman in the moment. And I guess, Halston would be a great example of that.
Yeah.
And is really about making clothes for their customer. And I love that relationship. And I love the period of American design, like between like the 50s and the early 80s. And then in the 90s, I mean, obviously for me, Calvin Klein is a strong reference. Donna Karan is a very strong reference. And somebody that I spend a lot of time looking at her work now, more and more. Early Prada, like designers where are periods of their work where I feel like they were designing real clothes. I love, like, where I'm just like you look at the runway and you're like, I would wear that shirt, I would wear that skirt. But then the way it's presented is just like new and fresh and interesting. Old Helmut Lang, I like, Old Margiela, but I feel like those are examples for me that are just like taking clothes that I know and presenting it in a way that's really like cool and interesting, less about apparel design.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Helmut Lang stuff's cool, but I also feel like that's the I'm in art school answer people give, to where they're like, when you ask someone a designer they love, and they're like, Helmut Lang from this era to this era. And it's like, cool, what were the things that you admired? And they're like, he just did it differently. And like the stuff you mentioned some serious designers whom I think a lot of people neglect and may not pay attention to, especially that specific era, because a lot of people don't think at least American design happened until American Gigolo, which was freaking Giorgio Armani anyway. Like it's difficult to try to narrow down what made an American designer other than people, I don't know, like Perry Ellis stuff or I mean Jeffrey Bean. That's a very, very deep cut. I mean that's good stuff, and I think it's interesting too that it shows what you're aspiring to when you think of American designers versus just trying to find a way to reinterpret, the Antwerp Six.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Helmet is interesting and Margiela are interesting because I feel like they found things like military clothes, like specifically, and reworked them. But when I think about a Jeffrey Bean, I think about like a dressmaker, like somebody who was really like thinking about making something new. And Jeffrey Bean had this way of doing motifs and mixing motifs that I find astounding to this day, where he would find or create, I'm not sure, a floral and then mix it with a polka dot, and it would look incredibly modern. And there's a real dialogue between motif and silhouette and line on garment that I think is incredibly unique. I think on his website, you can, I think you could still go through and see, like, you can see all of the archive, like all the footage of the collections. Yeah, the still images. I'll have to check tonight, but you used to be able to. I'm sure you can. I used to like spend, like, when I was a couple years ago, during the pandemic, I would spend like hours just looking at it. And the fashion shows where 4 women walk out at the same time and they take the coat off and they throw it over the shoulder. But while you're watching, you're like, that dress is incredible. Like, that dress is genius, like that is like the dress, if you're buying a dress to go to a wedding that you want, I mean, obviously different time, you would reproportion it, you would change some things about it, but incredibly innovative.
Yeah, there's also something about that era too. Like, I mean, I started getting really into, of course, because I'm an idiot, I got really into collecting like old Sears catalogs and old JCPenney catalogs. And first off, they're really expensive. But second, most of the clothing at that time, everyone was also so happy. Just the images that are being portrayed. I don't know what their actual lives are, right? But like everyone was just smiling all the time. And, I looked at that. I was like, I'm going to grab the most current issue of Vogue. And it's not that like people are unhappy, but there's a lightness in these, even like J. Crew, right? Like there's a lightness in some of these older images, the way that like the clothing also is just like there wasn't as many options, like in the women's stuff. I mean, you look at these old, I will find some of these pictures so you understand more of what I'm talking about. And I don't know, I can put it up in the pod.
Well,
But
did you
like
see that? Did you
there's
see Triangle of Sadness? Like the opening scene of that?
yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is somewhat, well, it's pretty true actually, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's disheartening.
Well, it's funny because when I joined Another Tomorrow, the founder comes from the finance world, and we would work on a photo. I would work on a photo shoot or something, and she would just like make sure that the model is smiling in some photos. I'm like, model smile.
Right?
But it's kind of interesting to think about, like, why has that happened? Like, people used to walk down a runway and like twirl, right? They call Pat Cleland the whirling dervish because she would twirl down the runway when she would model
Yeah.
for Jeffrey Bean and Halston and all these people. And it was like real joy, like selling something and like smiling, And now it's like the opposite of that. Like, you don't want to look like you're selling it. At least in a fashion context, maybe outside of fashion, it's a little bit different. But like grinning ear to ear in a garment is like sort of looks cheap,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that why you think it is? There's just this like you want to look expensive, so you want to be stoic. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought the whole, I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but I thought the whole quiet luxury thing was really interesting because to me it was like, yeah, duh, like you have a lot of money, you don't need to be flashy. Like that's been going on forever. Like, I don't know why everyone's talking about this, like those are just your clothes. Like that is just your t-shirt, that $600 t-shirt is your t-shirt, those Cucinelli pants are your pants, that Laura Piana jacket is your jacket. Like that's just what you wear. Everybody else wears, the J. Crew version or the Gap version or whatever. And I was like, why is everybody making such a big deal out of this? Like, if you have more money and you love nice things, you're going to buy nice things. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want everyone to see that they're nice things, Well,
I think that's the thing is historically, I mean, what you're talking about is old money and new money,
Mm-hmm.
is new money wants people to know, hey, I belong here. So check out my Vetmonts and my triple S's and all these things, which are very unique. And you're like, yep, that person's rich. They have, or, I'm coming in with all my LV bags and all my Dior and all that stuff. And so you look rich. And just seeing someone in a knit polo. And also, I think brands like Uniqlo and Gap and all these people have been able to make excellent knitwear for a very, very affordable price. And so unless you were comparing them side by side, a knit polo is a knit polo, but this is knit Vicuña and it's $15,000 is definitely a flex. And I think like that's this weird thing where all of a sudden it almost kind of goes back to one of my original points I was making, where people want to dress, but they just want to be I don't know, they want to be a little more subtle about it. But I think it's also people are just going to buy whatever the houses make. So if the houses, I mean, I remember one time I was talking to a friend of mine. He worked for a large suiting company that was based out of Naples, and he talked about, we had a good year this year, but it's only because this house had a bad year. He's like, we never really gain new customers. He's like, maybe 10, 20 a year. We basically just take jabs at the existing customers that the other houses have. And he's referring to suit companies. Mm-hmm. But he's like, there really hasn't been a time or a market for us growing like an entirely new customer. And that's what he was saying is like, yeah, because for him, he was referring to the brand that they were doing that like suiting was kind of dying at the time. I mean, it's picked back up a bit, but he just talked about like there was just not anyone new. And so it's like, well, this company didn't have that great of a year, but we did. And that's because those people got bored with buying us and they just switched teams. I mean, dead serious. That was just all he had connected that stuff to. And that's still kind of true on some of these folks. But the whole quiet luxury thing was just, you had people all of a sudden trying to buy Keton, like on eBay. Keton's great. Yeah. Keton's great. Keton's absurdly overpriced. Mm-hmm. Someone at Keton's going to be like, no, it's not. Like, yes, it is. The K50 is a total, like, rich person, pulling the wool over your eyes. But Keton, I think, is an incredible brand. This stuff's amazing. But you're not going to see me lining up for Keton jeans. But it's still sick. I'd wear them if someone gave them to me.
I mean, more in the women's world, but like, I think what the Row has done in the last 10 years has been remarkable as well, right? It's just like
the Row is really, really good.
It's
It's
the best of the
really
best.
good.
Yeah.
But like, what is it about the row that's so good? I bought some row pieces. I put them on, and I just look like Jeremy wearing the row versus a cool person. It was bad. I couldn't do it.
What I am trying to do with Another Tomorrow is really talk about luxury, but with sustainability. So it's a little bit different. But I love what the row has done, where it's just about luxury,
Yeah.
and they don't feel the pull, for the most part, they don't feel the pull to create product that they don't love. They want to, what it seems to me that they're doing is they want to make the product that they want to wear. And I think a lot of creative people want to wear really simple product. And the thing that's amazing when you're only talking about luxury, and it's, quote unquote, quiet luxury, I hate to use that term, but is that you are using the best possible materials. So that button down shirt is going to be impeccable. That t-shirt is going to be impeccable. And it's such a joy to make clothes out of wonderful materials. I mean, it's phenomenally wonderful. Like it's just like this past 15 months of my life since I started Another Tomorrow have been so incredible. Just the fact that I have gone to where we make the clothes, and a kilometer away we grow the linen, and seen the linen field that then is now the shirt that I'm wearing a year later is an experience that I've never had as a designer, nor did I ever think I would have that experience. And I think that, luxury brands can be much closer to the raw materials. They can be more selective because they don't have to deal with margins at the same level, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. But one thing, so like on Another Tomorrow, you guys are you don't hide the fact that you have a literal whole column of sustainability and where materials are used, materials you don't use, where you produce, etc. But a brand like, say, The Row doesn't have anything like that. And no one seems to care. Why is that?
They don't, but I think a brand like The Row and Loro Piana, Cucinelli, Hermes, like they're using the highest quality materials, so the partnerships are going to be really strong. They're going to be with people that are doing ethical production for the most part. I mean,
Fair.
I would, yeah.
I don't think it's unethical. I'm not assuming that, but just.
I mean, I will tell you this: that I'm working for a brand that has like the highest integrity, very mission focused. It is very challenging making clothes with all of our limitations. A lot of fun because I like limitations, and I also like the fact that I now have sort of edited resources, so it makes decision making just more efficient. And we can push to do a couple of things every season, but we really have to be really edited about the decisions that we make, and very flexible because things are changing all the time in our world. But it's just such a pleasure to design product this way. It just feels like, what I always say is, like, I feel like anyone who is working in physical product, regardless of what that product is, should be thinking through the filter of sustainability as they're making product. Like, they should be thinking about and questioning every part of the process, to the design decisions they're making, sourcing decisions, how they're shipping the product, everything.
Yeah. Do you look at other, I don't know, like, do you feel like that stuff should be more of like a standard or like a law that to exist to sell clothes in the United States, whatever, you need to be meeting this criteria?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think you just take one sneak peek into like what's going on with discarded clothes in other parts of the world, and you're immediately horrified, and it changes your buying habits, or it should change your buying habits. I think that fashion is like a black hole. We don't know where our clothes come from. It's not like you buy a thing of arugula from the grocery store and it says where it came from. Like,
right.
What Vanessa, our founder, says is, we're treating fashion as an agricultural product, which is accurate. We know where our raw materials come from. We buy directly from farms in Australia and New Zealand for our wool supply. We send that wool to Italy. They process it for us and make the cloth. Like, it's down to, sheep are the only animal product that we use, but down to the sheep or the plant, we know where everything comes from.
Yeah, and I think younger people assume that's the norm now, but older people are like, wait, huh? Because I definitely, it's caused me to reconsider stuff that I've purchased, or stuff that I, like brands that I would patronize now. Because I'm like, you know what? I don't even know what this brand does, and I don't want to give them a pass just because they're a large house or they're a historic brand. Shit, you look at, to go on Louis Vuitton, like when Louis Vuitton was trying to expand and they were like popping all these different territories and all this stuff, when they were doing made in USA things and made in this. And at one point it was just about distributing at mass. And so I'm sure some ethical corners got cut. It's just, it's not like I'm trying to have like some sort of like false controversy here, but there's just some bullshit that I think a lot of people don't really go and examine now that I would love to become a standard.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that there should be standards, and companies should be held accountable. And, we should all know where our clothes are coming from, where the raw materials are coming from, who's sewing them, et cetera. And also the other thing, and I hate to say this, but there's a reason why clothes should not, let me put it this way, clothes should not be as inexpensive as people are accustomed to buying them at. Like, clothes should be more expensive. It is not easy to make a shirt. We are conditioned to buy things for very low prices and to buy things on sale, but the cost of making that garment should be more than it is. Like, people should be paid fair labor to like make a garment. There's just a lot of practices in our industry that, especially in the more like mass part of the industry, that I just think are horrible. And you do 5 minutes of research and they're sort of appalled by the industry. And it has really changed the more knowledgeable I am, the more I refuse to buy anything, even if it's like for my kids that are, mass market produced. I will say that my older son is obsessed with soccer, and that's like problematic because he only wears microplastics, but I don't really know what to do.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that.
Yeah, I don't.
Shit.
No, I haven't figured out how to like solve that one yet.
Yeah.
He only wears like officially licensed soccer clothes. That's it.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, I'm with you. I think there's a lot of, because on one hand, this is where I like blame stuff like TikTok, in all honesty, so I was with some family members and they were talking about their Shein hauls.
No.
And I was like, and here's the thing, and like I really try to be conscious of my own elitism, of talking down, of all that stuff. And I was like, oh, tell me about this. And they were like, oh yeah, I got all these clothes. It's like for this much money. And like, it's awesome because I got all this stuff. And I was like, I think it might be worth researching how that stuff's made and where it comes from.
Yeah.
And one of them, I was a friend of theirs, was like, oh no, there's this, they sent this friend, they sent this person that we follow to like the Shein headquarters, and they got to interview him and they said it was so good. And I was like, hold the phone. Are you sure? And they showed me what it was, and they showed me the influencer and all this. I mean, this was like all in the New York Times and stuff recently too. And I'm like, that's no good. I'm like, it's clothes. It shouldn't be that fleece or whatever you got should not be $3. It just can't. Not unless it was, you got it at a thrift store that, someone else bought and you got it from Goodwill, or some sort of Patagonia find for, I don't know, $5. Mm-hmm. Way to go. Congrats. But I was like, that doesn't feel right. I was trying to find a way to not get all high and mighty, but be like, this is fucked. Do not do this. It's tough.
No, I mean, I remember a number of years ago when I was doing this Athleta collaboration, and we had leggings that were $98. And one of my cousins said to me, oh, I would love to wear those leggings, but like, that's too much money. Like, I don't spend money like that. Like I buy my leggings at Old Navy, which I totally understand. Right.
Sure.
I think the problem is that if you're buying something for a garment, that has multiple seams, trims, whatever, for $3, $5, $10, you have to ask yourself, like, is this too good to be true? Like, how is this being made?
Yeah.
And it's too good to be true. Like, things should not be that inexpensive. Like, I'm always sort of astounded by baby clothes. How is this $12? Especially if it's like a baby version of an adult garment, like a baby button-down shirt. I'm like, it still has the collar, it still has the cuffs, it still has the buttonholes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of sewing in it. I just think that we're conditioned to buying things really inexpensively, and it's hard because that's, for a lot of people, that's what they want to spend, or that's what they can afford to spend. So I think it comes across as elitist when you tell people like, oh no, you should be spending more money on your clothes. But I think the problem is when something is too good to be true, it's generally too good to be true. So you shouldn't be getting like a whole wardrobe for $100.
Yeah, there's not. I think the thing is when people are like, oh, it's discounted, but there was a human capital discount. Like, I think that's the thing to think about. It's like someone paid that discount for you to get it. There was some sort of human capital thing where it was like, yeah, because labor was so cheap here, or because they were able to do this, or because they're not held to a standard of their wastewater, or,
Sure.
I mean, a lot of people have been using Vietnam because there's some pretty great stuff that's happening over there. But like, it's tough because, yeah, I'm with you where I don't want to be, oh, I'm Jeremy and I lived in New York and I, worked at fashion and I'm going to be a dick. Where it's like, no, like, this is stuff that we should have conversations about. and also to just normalize buying resale.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally fine to just, especially kids' clothes. I mean, my kids, they're all we're just going and I'm getting hand-me-downs from whatever, or but like, I'm not really buying new clothes for the kids. Like, what's the point? You wear it for 2 months anyway.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my kids' clothes too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the other thing is when your new clothes cost as much as the clothes at the Goodwill, it's problematic, right? Like when a shirt, I just don't understand how a shirt can be, maybe it's a little more expensive. Maybe it's like $5 to $10, but $15. I just like, how can a garment be that inexpensive?
Well, the thing that I said that like, I think resonated a little bit is I was like, what did you have for breakfast? And they were like, I don't know, like Captain Crunch. And I was like, that Captain Crunch is like $5 or $6. Okay. I was like, so how is your shirt? I was like, more expensive, I was like, cheaper than a box of cereal. I was like, there's something that doesn't add up. And they're like, oh, well, the cereal is made in the US and it's food. Food just costs more right now. I was like, cotton. What about all that? I was like, there's so many things, but it was just, I don't know. I don't know if it fell on deaf ears, but I'm trying to at least help people ask questions about that. And maybe someone on TikTok will make the truth behind it, and then the younger kids will understand. I don't know.
I'm not on TikTok. I'm afraid of TikTok because I feel like if I get on it, I'll never get off it.
Oh yeah. Well, especially because it learns what you like, and so I just see like drywall repair and people being idiots with like for a while I was only seeing things that's like, here's how to organize your fridge. And I'm like, that's a great idea.
Oh my God.
I should organize my fridge. I was like, I should get some plastic containers to put my other plastic containers in. And then I could put some other plastic around that. And I was like, what the fuck is going on with me?
Yeah, I would love TikTok that. I would love that. Like there's, like, vacuum marks on rugs, like, just things that like add, like, I don't know.
Clean talk.
Is that what they call it?
Clean talk, yeah.
Oh, like every time people tell me about this stuff, or somebody told me that they do these like people dissect Architectural Digest articles on TikTok, and I was like, oh, I would never get off.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. Yeah, jeez. It's, I don't know. Well, anyway, Liz, I want to be very conscious with your time. So, but it was so great to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
You've been listening to Blamo. Our show is produced by Blamo Media. We're edited by Amar Lal, and our theme music, as always, by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. If you like what you heard, share the pod with a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever it is you're leaving reviews on. You can follow us on Instagram for all the hot content. If you want to talk to us and give us your hot take, we'd love to hear from you. You can call us. Actually, can you call us anymore? No, you can't. So you can email us at info@blamopod.com. And if you want to hang with us and join the Blam Fam, visit patreon.com/Blamo, where we have tons and tons of exclusive episodes and our amazing Slack community, in addition now to exclusive shows from Blamo Presents Derek Guy to the Triple J Show. It's a wild world out there, so come on in. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you soon.